Hello, I'm Lorna, and welcome to the Natural Dog Training Academy.
And I'm Sonia. Welcome to our channel. Today, we have decided to discuss how important it is to have your dog rest if they're a young dog, because this last week, Lorna and I have both had similar cases where we've been to young dogs and lots of behavioural issues because one of the main reasons was because they weren't resting enough in the day.
Yeah, absolutely. If you have a dog, say, under a year, and especially if you happen to have quite, say, a busy household where there's a lot of people, then your dog always wants to be with you, especially young dogs. They just want to be with you all the time. So you'll find that they'll go away and they'll look as though they're resting, but they're dozing. If you move, they move. And it's so important for a young dog to really get good quality sleep. And, a dog under a year old needs anything between 12 and 14 hours sleep a day because they need that for their behavior. They need that to be calm, just a bit like children, really. But the interesting thing that I find, Sonia, is that I go into households where their families and they have children, or sometimes the children are growing up. And when you ask the owners, and you say, well, when your children were very young, babies and toddlers, did you not put them down to bed to sleep? Oh, yes, that's what everybody says. Oh, yeah, but I said, well, you've got a baby dog here. This is a baby dog, and they need to sleep. And they're not voluntarily going to sleep when they can be with you and follow you and look at you. So you actually have to manage their sleep. When you agree, Sonia, it needs to be managed.
Oh, definitely, yeah. And the reason why your dog will follow you around all the time, puppies and young dogs, is because you're all their resources,
Mm,
aren't they, Lorna? So
mhm.
the food, the safety, the entertainment, the shelter. So of course they're going to follow you everywhere because it's like you're the survival. So yeah, it's really, really important that they do rest. I mean, crates are very good, aren't they,
Mm,
Lorna? But
yeah.
used in the right way and introducing the crate in the right way. So feeding them in the crate so they see it as a nice place, giving all the treats in the crate. Um, but that way, you also are helping with the separation anxiety. But if you've got a dog and you just got a bed for the dog, and you sit down, your dog rests, you get up as soon as they move, then you're gonna end up having behavioral issues, aren't they, Lorna? So it's things like chewing, destruction, jumping, because a tired dog can be an angry dog, can't they?
Yeah. It's quite interesting though, because I think a lot of owners, they have this sort of behavior. Say, for instance, you've got a dog that's quite hyper and jumps a lot, or it will just destroy every toy. And it doesn't actually dawn on the owner that tiredness is playing a part until you perhaps point it out. Because if you were to go back and relate to children, and I'm not saying for a minute that dogs always think and do the same as children, but there are some similarities. If you have a child that's sleep deprived, then you get bad behavior, but you recognize it because it's a little human. But it's the same with a young dog. If your dog, and certainly I think we were talking, weren't we, about the situations in the last week or two that we've had with dogs under a year, and the hyperactivity, the jumping, and they just can't settle and focus. And when you're trying to train your dog, the one thing you do need is focus and eye contact. And a tired dog just can't do that. They can't take anything in, and they get worse and they get worse, and you get frustrated and you're just going nowhere. And what often the solution is simply making sure that that dog has more quality sleep. And I get what you're saying, Sonia, about crates. Brilliant. But not everybody has a crate. So if you don't, or you don't have room for, or whatever, I mean, a crate would be the first preference, we would say. But even just putting your dog away in another room, that's quiet, so that there's nobody passing through, and it gets to learn that that's where it goes. No excuses. It doesn't get out. It stays there for sleep. So it can be somewhere else, or a utility room, or a bedroom, or something like that.
Yeah, but you've also got to make sure, haven't you, that it's got its resources in that room. So, whether you're leaving it, you want to leave it with something that it can't destroy, and have an accident with. So maybe a filled Kong, or make sure it's got its water. But it's important that when you do leave your dog on your own, it has something that it can eat or chew that isn't going to go into pieces. So because you've always got to watch your dog, haven't you, when they're chewing on something
Oh yeah.
that's sort of like nice and tasty. But yeah, you can't just plonk your dog in a room and expect that it's not going to try and get out, because it will. So if you're getting a puppy, or you have a puppy, it's at that age, the 8 weeks, isn't it, Lorna, that's where you start off on the right foot. So I mean, I always advise my clients, a crate but with a pen around it, so you don't have to necessarily shut the crate. Or if you don't mind things being chewed, because the puppies are still going to chew, shut the dog in a utility or in the kitchen. But rest is just so important, so important. I mean, my case that I've had this week, he was jumping up and pulling on her clothes, and if she'd be putting the washing in, he'd be pulling it back out again and destroying things, and just really, really hyper, and just pacing all the time. And the only time he rested was when she sat down.
Yeah.
And as soon as she got up again, he was up and wanted to know, what was going on. So rest is really important. And if you do have a dog where you sort of like at the stage, it's 6 months or it's a year, and you're thinking, oh gosh, yeah, this is my dog, and you're going to start getting it to rest, you might have some barking, you might have some scratching at the door. So in that case, sometimes you need to seek help, if you have got separation anxiety. But what do you do with your dog when you go out and leave it on its own? I mean, then they normally do rest, don't they, Lorna, when they're left?
Yeah. And I think sometimes people say, oh yes, I know my dog needs sleep, but they're talking about very, very young puppies, as you were mentioning earlier. But we're really talking about dogs even up to a year, even over a year, where they're still growing and they're still puppies. But they can look as though they're adult dogs, but they're still puppies. And a bit like you, Sonia, one of the cases I had recently, just last week actually, was quite a big dog, but it was only 8 months old. And crikey, it was trying to eat my hand. I mean, it really literally was gnawing and gnawing and gnawing. And it's quite painful, that. And that's another sign as well. Often, there can be other issues with the gnawing, but again, it can be tiredness. And then, the jumping and practically knocking you backwards. And also what we found with that dog was that by the time we were getting to the stage where we were going outside to do some walking exercises, the dog was just too tired. And it was a busy household. It's a little bit easier if it's not such a busy, but this was a busy household, lots of people in the house. So the dog was always being stimulated by someone, and of course getting different messages by everyone. So by the time we got outside to try and do some walking exercises and some training to calm the dog down, I just say it had lost it, and it couldn't focus because it was overtired. And we just had to stop, which is what you would have to do anyway, and put in place, the sleep routine that the dog needs. And then it's going to be an awful lot easier, to manage after that. So, it's not only young dogs of 3 and 4 months, it can also be older dogs. And I think sometimes people don't recognize that even older dogs, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 months, need quality sleep, not dozing, but actually deep, deep sleep. where you hear your dog snoring or those wee twitches and twitchy noises that they make when you know they're actually in a deeper sleep. Would you
Mm.
agree with that, Sonia?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, the dog I saw was 18 months.
Well, yeah,
So
well, there you go.
yeah, it's when they're still developing and they're growing up. Now, there is a lot of dogs out there, isn't there, Lorna, that will rest and
Mm,
are not following you around everywhere. But certainly a lot of dogs that we go to see, as soon as the owner's up, they're there. I mean, a lot
yeah.
of people work from home now.
Yes,
So,
yeah.
and the dog's there on the bed in the office or
Hmm.
whatever. But, as soon as the owner gets up to go out the room, the dog gets up to go out the room.
Hmm. Hmm.
So it's really, really important that when you do have a young dog, that, even if it's just, a couple of times a day, just for an hour or so, or a couple of hours, to just get them to by themselves so they can rest if you're not leaving them by themselves. Now, it's a different case, I suppose, isn't it, Lorna, if you're out at work,
Hmm.
you've got a dog walker, and then they bring the dog back and then they're resting again, and then you're in the evening and the dog's following you around and you go out for a walk. That's completely different, because then they're sleeping all night.
Yes,
Well,
exactly.
so that's fine. But if you are home all day and your dog is like this and you have got behavioural issues, that will be the main reason why, because it's not getting enough rest.
Yeah, yeah. So one to remember when you have a young dog, because I think people sometimes are quite surprised that, they need so much sleep. People don't think about 12, a lot of my clients say, oh, well, the dog goes to bed at 10 o'clock and then is great, sleeps all through the night. Yeah, probably will do because it's pretty tired. But even that alone isn't enough. Needs daytime rest as well, to be calm and happy and responsive and also to be able to focus on you for training purposes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So we hope that you've got something out of this dog chat, and we do visit our website, because we've got a couple of courses available now, which is walking and recall, because it's also quite important, Lorna, isn't it, that dogs and puppies do get stimulation, and
Mm.
a lot of the time people keep them on the lead because they daren't let them off because they don't come back to them, and they're not getting enough exercise.
Yeah. Yeah.
So have a look at the website, have a look at the courses. We've got more courses coming soon. And thank you very much for listening, and bye for now.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.